Hey everyone, I'm home and catching up on final videos. So here's one for Calcutta. Calcutta is the 11th largest metropolitan area in the world by population and the 6th densest city in the world. So it's a big city, a lot of people, kind of crowded. Um, but yeah, it was more developed than the other cities I spent time in on this trip. I guess there are other cities in India even more developed, but nice shopping malls, nice restaurants, nice bank towers and apartment towers. Not a concentrated skyscraper district like you'd see in America, but just random tall buildings in random parts of the city. And then lots of like 3 to 5 story block shaped apartment buildings. Some nicer, kept up with pastel colored paint, and others that were just gray and run down. And yeah, the contrast between the rich and the poor, though, was more evident here than anywhere else that I'd been on this trip. Just seeing poor people selling food on the street or living in shacks, and then right across the street or just a few minutes drive away, there's nice hospitals and it looks like America, other than the crowded streets and sidewalks. But yeah, the poverty was overwhelming at times. Um, there were beggars who were insistent about asking for money. That was hard to process and hard to know what to do. Um, uh, Insistent street vendors who were, just because I was white, were extra insistent on trying to get me to come to their shop or look at their stuff. That was a little hard to process too. Not used to standing out because of my skin color, but certainly did in India on this trip. Um, let's see what else. There were a lot of nice institution type buildings, the museums, theater district. The Victoria Memorial, I think, was my favorite place to visit. It's a big monument building, kind of like the Lincoln Memorial in DC, except bigger. Inside, there's a history museum, and outside, it's, yeah, a really cool marble monument building. And then all around were lawns where people were picnicking or kids playing badminton and stuff. And so that was a breath of fresh air to have somewhere a little more spacious in the heart of the city where it felt less crowded, even though there were a lot of people there. I also got to visit the Natanji Bose house, which is a historical museum now about India's independence movement. Natanji Bose was a founding father of modern India, kind of their George Washington equivalent, I guess, because he was their general in the 1940s when they were fighting against England for independence. And I hadn't realized this before, but it was tied up in World War II. Basically, at the risk of oversimplifying, while England was distracted fighting Germany, India saw its opportunity to fight for its independence. Um, the air was pretty polluted while I was there. I think that was partly just the time of the year, but yeah, smog everywhere. You could smell the pollution. You could smell the sewer a lot. Um, and yeah, um, but yeah, the river was pretty. It's a Hooghly branch of the Ganges River. I even got to see a worship ceremony for the river with 8 or 10 men waving incense or fire or bells, accompanied by chanting to worship the river. And my friend who took me asked me what I thought, and the only thing I can think to say is it's different from Christian worship. It's just so different. You can't even compare it, really. Anyway, it was an interesting experience. But all the people were nice. And yeah, I got to visit 3 different people or families from India that I knew them or knew their son who was studying here in one case. The food was all good. It wasn't the same spices as the rest of India. I'm having a little trouble describing it, but there was a lot of seafood. and there's a lot of Chinese food on that the street vendors were selling too, because I guess it's closer to China than the rest of India is. Um, yeah, I guess those were the main things that stood out to me. Um, Not the nicest large city in the world, but if you're already going there, you should definitely check out the Victoria Memorial and various other things that they have there. Um, but yeah, that was Calcutta.